guys! Welcome to my YouTube channel. And for today's vlog, we are going to identify those common misconceptions about architecture, my chosen career. Let's go! Let us start with the misconception number 1. Ta-da! Architecture is for men. If architecture is for men, why would I like to be an architect? Even if I am a girl. There are so many misconceptions about architecture. But perhaps this is the first one that should be debunked. But it is not true that this career is solely for men. Great female architects are finally getting their due attention with female architects such as Teresa Borsuk. She is the one receiving the 2015 Women Architect of the Year award. See? Not just for men, but also for women. Women certainly have a place in this field of design. Mostly girls are good in designing, right? Misconception number 2. Ta-da! Architects are wealthy. Not all, but some of architects are wealthy, but not all of them. Sadly, this is not true. Despite the years of hard work in school, all of their studies do not pay off in the sense of the bank balance. Sadly, most of us think that architecture is the most wealthy, most paid workers in the world, but that's already a misconception. Despite the mainstream thought, architects are not paid like doctors. They earn a good income, but not one that will make them wealthy. I have known someone who is an architect, but he was not paid with that kind of amount that we used to have in our mind. I don't think so why, but he said he had been paid an amount less than the amount that doctors had. Misconception number 3. Ta-da! Architects are builders. Literally not. In my own answer, it's not that they are the builders because they are the designers of what builders do. So they are not builders, they are designers. This is the truth. Architects use tools but not hammers. Architects design the buildings, they do not build them. Their designs and blueprints are passed off to the builders developers who then bring the designs to fruition. So, the architects are not the builders, and the builders are the builders of what architects do. This requires a close relationship between the architects and the builders. But the final structure is created by the developer or the builder. Misconception number 4. Ta-da! Architects are James Bond cool. What are James Bond cool? James Bond cool are those persons who was walking with a cigarette, walking like a famous, like that, walking in Halloween. That is what James Bond cool. This is the truth. While many architects don't want us to debunk this classic misconception, everyone wants to be slick and cool like James Bond. But architects are not that eccentric, cool, cigar-smoking characters that the general public has envisioned to them. Sorry, they're just average people like the rest of us, sitting at desks, hunched over computers, and usually working in the minute details on the project. Usually, architects used to be sitting in a table, facing a computer, doing some things that they need to process the designs that they were going to do. Misconception number 5. Ta-da! Architects are introverts. Really? How would architects do something good if they are introverts? This is the fact. That is wrong. Architects can't afford to be an introvert. Their designs ideas would never live from blueprints to to reality if they were quiet and shy. In order to have their designs and be accepted and taken seriously, and to have the builders follow their designs, architects must be loud and proud. A shy architect will struggle in this field since the job relies heavily on communication skills with clients, especially those designers, those builders, constructors, public, and etc. Because architects need to talk to everyone, to ask what would be the best, what would be the nicest thing that he can put to his designs. That is what architects. Misconception number 6. Ta-da! It is a glamorous job. I don't think so that it is a glamorous job. Being glamorous is that you are the one who are just sitting without doing anything, and you could get and you could earn from it, but it is not. Architecture is not a glamorous job. This is the truth. Becoming the next Frank Lloyd Wright. Do you know Frank Lloyd Wright? No. Frank Lloyd Wright is one of the famous architects. And it must have been glamorous to be a famous architect who created some of the ingenious structures. But this is not the reality for the everyday architect. Being that kind like Frank is not the truth for everyday architecture. That's not the reality. Most architects are busy working through details, meeting public officials, city officials, trying to live through bureaucratic red tape, dealing with building codes, constrained by clients' budget, visiting constructor sites. Nothing about this task is glamorous. While some architects do have the chance to travel, it is not as common as some may think. I think some of those architects who travel out of the country is those who had the work out of the country, but they are not traveling out of the country because of themselves. Maybe because of themselves when they are going to have free time for themselves, but it's not what you call glamorous job. It is not a glamorous job because this job is you have to do something for you to earn, but a glamorous job is you have to do nothing but you earn. That is a glamorous job. Misconception number 7. Ta-da! Architects are creative artists. No. I can draw, but it is not good. But I don't think that architects need to be an artist because it is not needed when you become an architect. That is what I searched before I knew that kind of course or career. While many architects entering school think that they need a creative artistic skills, but that is not a job requirement. It is architects do not need to be creative problem solvers, but they don't need to be like Picasso. Picasso is one of the great artists. We all know that. But being an architect, you don't need to be like Picasso. In fact, a lot of their work involves basic geometry, which are by no means creative. And also, there need to be computer-aided designs because CAD has pretty much taken over the pencil and paper. So most of the times, architects are hunched over computers rather than drawing their own design because it's much helpful having computer. You can do something more creatively while using computer. Misconception number 8. Ta-da! Architects work alone. Really not. Architects did not work alone. They have someone who is with them to finish a design and finish something that they would work with. Like most projects, architecture is not the work of one sole person. It takes a team, It takes a team. It takes a team for you to build something better, right? There are usually thousands of people involved with the larger projects like interns, modelers, designers, people in the field, and etc. There are a lot of people that you need to do something beautiful. While most design firms have a managing principal, a person who facilitates the designs is not usually the actual designers. Rather, it is the lower totem staff who create the design. But sometimes the managing principal becomes the architect who designed the said building, but it's not. We see how this could be frustrating for the rest of the team. Just know that when you read in a magazine about so and so was the architect, there was probably a lot more people involved in that one person mentioned in the article. So when you have read an article that is named an architect or a facilitator or designer, sometimes they are not really the designers. They're just the facilitator of that thing, but not the one who made that design. So sad for the real architects of that design. Misconception number 9. Ta-da! Architects can get you the material. Obviously not, because architects usually the designer, as what we have said earlier. Architects design. As we mentioned above, they are the designer and not the builders. Therefore, they are not the brokers of the materials used in a project. Simply as that, you can explain that misconception because architects are architects, builders are builders. That is all. But this is the thing. They can only suggest which material are best suited for the design and perhaps mention a possible source of such material to the builders. But the builders probably already have their own material sources and perhaps their own ideas of what material will work best. So, architects is just suggestions, but they are not really those who was a boss in terms of following which brand, which type of material will you use. That they are just the suggestions. Misconception number 10. Ta-da! All architects are equally qualified. I don't think so. Because of some of those articles that I have read is that architects are not usually qualified. But most of them are really good. This is the truth. They all went to school to get the same degree. So they should all be equally qualified. But that's wrong. That's wrong. Architecture is a science, but there are numerous ideologies that can change the way an individual firm approaches your job. Most companies look to their individual past experiences, what are they are predominant in, commercial or housing or green design, etc. They ask how they approach a job. What is their workflow process? What do their past projects look like? No two architects or architectural firms are alike, so choose one that best suits your individual needs. So wow, there are a lot of misconceptions about architects, but what I have tackled today is just some of those misconceptions that usually we heard, but there are a lot of them. We think that despite all the ups and downs of this field of study, architecture still remains an amazing job whereby you can become well known for your unique and creative design abilities. For those persons who wanted to be an architect, fulfill your dreams. Thank you for watching.